Learning Mandarin is not a short-term project. Learning a language is a marathon, but most people are trying to sprint it, and that's why they burn out and they give up. Real communication usually takes around 3 months to hold a simple conversation, around 6 months to a year to communicate naturally. So if you ever study learning Mandarin and you stop and then you start again, this is exactly why. So in today's video, I'm showing you how to build a system so you can actually stay consistent and enjoy the process. Hello, my name is Jeannie. I'm a Mandarin coach. I help Mandarin beginners who are stuck at the beginner level to speak their first 5-minute Mandarin conversation within 3 months. So tip number 1, you need to fix the interest problem. So people always say interest is the best teacher, and that's true. Most people start learning Mandarin because they are interested. But here's a real problem. Interest is fragile. It starts as a spark, but it can disappear very quickly. A lot of learners kill that spark without realizing it. They study only for exam, they memorize boring word lists, they just repeat the textbook practice. So at that point, Mandarin stops feeling alive and it becomes a task. And once it becomes a task, your motivation drops. So the real question is not, do you have interest in learning Mandarin? It is, how do you keep your interest alive for long term? So when I first started learning English, I was really interested in it. I thought speaking English was cool. But every time I opened a textbook that's full of words I didn't understand, I felt bored and really wanted to give up. Until one day, my mom bought me an English DVD learning set. It didn't just teach vocabulary or grammar, it shows how people live, how people communicate, and how their world was different. And suddenly, English wasn't just a subject anymore. It actually became a door to a new world. And that's when everything changed. I realized language is not a subject, it's a tool. So it's a tool to connect, to explore, and to understand a different world. And once I saw it like that, my interest didn't just return, it becomes something much stronger. I also like to think learning a language is like dating. At the beginning, there's just a spark. You're curious, you enjoy getting to know each other. But if you stay only at the surface, the connection fades. So real connection comes from understanding how they think, how they live, how they see the world. So Mandarin learning, any language learning is the same. At the start, don't just focus on how do I say this sentence. You can actually go a little bit deeper. So why do people say things like this way? What is the cultural behind these words and sentences? When do people actually use this? That's when the spark turns into something lasting. And that's how you keep interest alive for long term. So tip number 2 that stops you from quitting Mandarin is to make Mandarin fun. So here's something important. If learning Mandarin for you is not fun, then your learning journey will not last. So instead of focusing on yourself just studying everything, try to create a Mandarin experience. For example, if you really enjoy talking, try to focus on talking out loud. If you enjoy reading something that you like, but just in Mandarin. If you enjoy listening, listen some Mandarin song. If you enjoy watching some Mandarin content like TV or movie that you actually enjoy. And then you build your learning around that. Because if the learning journey is not enjoyable, you won't last long enough to succeed. So instead of just trying to study, let me give you something that you can actually try. So try to set a date with Mandarin every 2 to 3 months. That's why you need to have a date with it. So for example, in 3 months, I will go to Chinatown and talk to 10 people in Mandarin. Now, your learning has direction. You're not just studying randomly anymore. You're going to prepare for something real. So naturally, you will focus on pronunciation, listening, focus on the basic conversation sentence. And suddenly, your motivation is no longer forced. You are not forcing yourself anymore. You are preparing yourself for something fun, something exciting. You're actually looking forward to it. Okay, tip number 3, you need to make it useful. So your brain is very simple. It only remembers things that it thinks is very useful. For example, if I ask you to remember a random stranger guy's phone number, you forget it straight away. But if I say this to you, this person will give you 500,000 job opportunity. You probably remember it straight away like that, right? Why? Because your brain says it matters, this is important, this is useful. So Mandarin is exactly the same. If you learn some useless or rare words first, your brain will just ignore them. But if you learn something like happening in daily life, like 我想吃饭 I want to eat. 你可以帮我吗 Can you help me? 你最近怎么样 How have you been? So your brain will remember it easily because you use it in the real life. And that's also why set a day with Mandarin every 2 to 3 months is extremely powerful because it forces you to learn to actually use it. But all the 3 tips that I shared above depends on one thing. You need to have a solid foundation of the pronunciation. Because if people cannot understand you, then nothing else works. You can't communicate, you can't enjoy it, and you can't even use it. So that's where most beginners actually get stuck. And that's why pronunciation is way more important than memorizing another 100 words, another 100 characters. The good news is, pronunciation doesn't take as long as most people think. It usually takes around 20 to 25 hours of focused practice to build a solid foundation. So within 1 to 2 months, you can completely change how you sound. Even though many learners know pronunciation is important, they still struggle. Because they often make the same mistake again and again without realizing it. So I have put together a free guide, Why You Struggle with Mandarin Pronunciation and Tone. It covers the 10 most common mistakes beginners make. So you can download it for free. I have attached the link below. If you don't want to figure everything out yourself and want a step-by-step system, I also run a 6-week Mandarin pronunciation challenge where I guide you through it. Combine everything that I teach in a clear, structured system. Usually after 45 days, many of my students will be able to speak clearly, be understood, and feel confident having real conversation. And finally, they can have fun and make the language useful in their life. So I currently invite a small group of beginners to join. If you're interested, just drop a comment, interested, and I will send you the details. So if you want to learn Mandarin long term, you need to make it interesting, make it enjoyable, and make it useful. Because consistency doesn't come from discipline, it comes from a system you actually enjoy. So after today's video, what are you going to change about your Mandarin learning? Which idea resonates with you the most? Feel free to drop a comment and share your thoughts. And also feel free to ask any question about learning Mandarin. So thank you for watching today's episode, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.